Welcome to lesson 1 on prompt engineering. In this lesson, we will discuss what are the prompt parameters and how the prompt parameters influences the output of a prompt and how to adjust those prompt parameters. And also we can see how we can use the API access to different large language models such as OpenChatGPT or Claude and how to get access to those APIs and how to integrate those APIs to your Python code. We can also see how we can use the simple prompting using either API access or using a web-based prompting such as Playground for ChatGPT and Workbench for the cloud models. Please subscribe, like, and comment so that it will encourage me to create such more technical videos for you. Thank you. Let us discuss large language model prompt parameters. There are about 10 to 11 parameters present for a prompt, and a lot of those parameters are having default values, and a couple of parameters you need to change in order to perform a task. And let us say system prompt, user prompt, and temperature are most common parameters you are changing in order to perform a task. System prompt mostly describes about the role of a large language model and the tone of the response, and also it has some constraints that can be applicable to all the user prompts. The system prompt is independent of user prompt. This could apply to all the user prompts. And user prompt mostly a query that will be solving a specific task. And temperature will be a way to set in order to get the response in a creative way. If you set temperature 0, even you run the same prompt multiple times, you get a similar response. If you set the temperature 1, every time you run a same prompt, you get a new creative way of response. The max tokens are the number of tokens used in the query. If you set to 200, the maximum tokens it will be taken as 200. The other parameters, top K sampling and top P sampling, are the strategies to generate the responses. On top K, if you set the K high, you have a creative way of generating the responses, which is indirectly related to the temperature. They have a choice on top K tokens that outputting in the generation process. And similarly, in top P is a cumulative aggregate probability of top a few words that is less than P probability. And the frequency penalty explains how likely you need to avoid some of the repeating words. And there is a presence penalty that helps to avoid the old ideas. And there is also a stop parameter that tells you when you want to stop your generated responses. And also there is a largest bias that explains how likely you want to boost specific words, how likely you want to block specific words. There is also a seed parameter that gives the randomness for your query when you are converting your prompt into a embedding. These are the couple of parameters you can see in the large language model prompts. Let us see the playground of a ChatGPT, which is a kind of a creating prompt. These are the prompt window. You have multiple parameters. This is called model parameter. You can select which model you want to use here. There are a couple of models: GPT-5 to GPT-4, GPT-5 Codex, GPT-5 Mini. Any kind of model you can select to get your prompt. And there are a couple of parameters as we have explained. Temperature, right now the temperature is 0. You can set this temperature up to 2. And you have the output format. You can specify how likely your output should look like. And you can also set the maximum number of tokens here. 2048 is given for a query. And you can set the top P, which is 1 is given. You can see that the store logs is true. And there are other variables called here. These variables are, for example, you can set the variable name as city or any other parameters here. And you can also integrate with some other tools here, but right now we are not using any of those things. And you can see that this is the system message. You have set a system prompt here. You are a YouTube title generator. You are asked to generate search engine optimized title and description for the following user prompt. This is the general way of setting the tone or the role of the prompt. And here is the user prompt. User prompt tells you that generate a title for lesson 1 prompt engineering. When you, these are the parameters you set. Other parameters we have already seen up in the above. When you run this command, you will see the result like this. And you have five options for the title: lesson 1, introduction to prompt engineering, master AI prompt for better results. And you can see that the output of the LLM is given as five options for title, and you have a SEO optimized description for the prompt that you have given. This is the results. Let us discuss how you can use Workbench in order to write a prompt in a cloud large language model. So, in order to get a access to the console, you need to have a login credential. Usually, you can go with your Gmail account on platform.cloud.com. And once you have login, and you will have an access to, you may have to pay little money to get your credentials such as API keys, and how you can get a workbench there that will help to write a prompt similar to what we have seen in the playbook. We can see the prompt parameters here. You have the model parameters given here. You can change the model parameters. There are a lot of models available. You can choose one of those models. And you have also kind of the variables, which is similar to that. If you want to repeat the same prompt on different variables, you can set these variables. And you will also have the template to make your prompt a reusable template using variables. And you have two parameters called system prompt and user prompt. In system prompt, you can write the role of the large language model. Here we are writing you are an expert on coding, and you are asked to design a Python method for sorting. You are asked to design by the large language model. Then write a code that is a time optimized sorting algorithm. Then if you run this one, then you can see that the response will be time optimized sorting method on Python. Maybe this is the quick sort algorithm or the insertion sort. So it has given insertion sort and merge sort, and you can see the code generated for that prompt. And this is the way you can write prompts. And let us discuss the OpenAI ChatGPT API connection via Python. So you will have to install a package called OpenAI. This OpenAI has a method called OpenAI. With using this OpenAI, you need to pass the large language model API key here. That will be able to access your large language model using a object called client. Once you create a client object, then you have a function that defines a prompt, which is called a query, and you have a model name that defines what model you need to communicate with. And here it is a GPT 3.5 turbo. And once you have this one, you have the client. You have to design all other parameters for a client. In order to create that other parameters of the prompt, you have to have the model name, which is model, and you have a user prompt, which is given as a you are a helpful assistant, answer questions clearly and concisely. And you have a user prompt, which is text you are passing as a query. And you have other parameters: max tokens, temperature, top p, and frequency penalty and presence penalty. And once you pass a query, and you have all exceptions here, and once you pass a query here, which is what is machine learning, and explain in three bulleted points, then it will give you the answer response, and response will be printed here. This is one way to use the open chat GPT. And other way how to use the Claude is given here. In the Claude, you will have similar API key, and you have the similar model name and the prompt as a string. You have to have the anthropic method to initiate the communication between the Claude API to your prompt. So once you have this one, you have to pass the anthropic API keys to this method. Once you create a client, the client message creation is slightly different here. You have model name, you have maximum tokens, and you have the prompt and the user role. And once you have the prompt given here as a message, then the response will be returned in this way, block by block text. And this will be the prompt. What is the machine learning? Explained in three bulletin points. The response will be given here. You can see that once you run this Python Claude access.py, you can see what is machine learning explained in three bulletin points. That is the prompt, and you have answer here. The first point is given here. Machine learning is a type of artificial intelligence. Computer systems learn and improve from experience without being explicitly programmed. That is one point. Second point, it works by the training algorithms on large data sets. And the third point is common applications include recommendation system, all those things. So this is the way you can access both the OpenAI, ChatGPT, as well as the cloud large language models. With this, we can conclude our lesson one on prompt engineering. We have addressed the parameters of the prompt, and we have seen the effect of the parameters and how we can use those parameters. And we have learned how the cloud large language model and OpenAI large language models are being used using both playground as well as the workbench. And we have also seen the Python API access to the large language models such as OpenAI and Claude. With this, please subscribe and like and comment for more such videos. That will be very encouraging for me. Thank you.